knowing that you'll respect them in the morning with intelligent talk that stimulates.
Welcome back to Inside the News. Glad to have you with us. This is our Picking Up the Pieces segment. Glad to have all of our affiliates across the country. If you're watching on YouTube, we got Frank Vernuccio in the top left, Ben Brunson's in the bottom, or maybe our SoundCloud page, WBV Inside the News. That's how you can find us on YouTube and SoundCloud. Okay, Ben, get us started here on our Picking Up the Pieces segment. Crime, big issue. What's crime?
Well, to me, crime is going to be the fulcrum that may decide how November goes, because crime is headed in a direction, in a negative direction, in a way that is very explosive right now. And the numbers are coming in every day in cities across America. And this was a trend that was underway. We were getting rid of bail. New York has essentially abolished bail as an institution. So criminals have become a revolving door. But the latest wave of essentially defunding the police and discouraging policing across the country, and having a system where police officers know that they are under attack from their politicians who should support them. And we have politically driven indictments going on. I'm sorry, the officer in Atlanta who shot Rayshard Brooks was completely justified. You can't convince me otherwise. I watched the video 6 Ways to Sunday. It was completely justified shooting. That was the only action that made any sense for that officer to take. I would have done the same thing in that officer's shoes, and I think most anyone would. And that officer faces 11 felony counts. That is completely politically driven indictment. And what it means is policing has essentially come to an end in this country, because officers are going to sit on their hands. I don't blame any officer for not reacting. It's dangerous to go arrest a black criminal right now. That's the reality that officers face. But the numbers show that crime is absolutely exploding. In Chicago over the weekend, there was 104 people shot and 14 killed, and that's been talked about a lot. But on Monday, and this is in addition to those numbers, on Monday, when you expect, that trend to fall off because it's a weekday, there was 41 people shot and another 6 killed on Monday following that weekend in Chicago. That is how out of control Chicago is. New York is the same. New York, which had crime under control because of the policies of Mayor Giuliani, which were kept in place by Michael Bloomberg and abolished by de Blasio, crime is exploding in New York. And it's the type of crime that made New York really a difficult place to live in much of the 80s. Street crime, petty street crime, where you feared for your life whenever you were walking, even in Midtown Manhattan after dark. And that's what New York is getting back to. And there's going to be a backlash. And I think this is going to show up. This is the issue that is going to drive the polls that occur in November, in my opinion.
Frank, let's continue on the crime. Am I correct in understanding that de Blasio is appointing his wife to do something with crime and everything? I mean, how ignorant is this decision, and how ignorant is she to be even commenting about this, Frank?
Well, Charlene McRae, de Blasio, said that it would be nirvana, I'm using her word exactly, if the police were simply vanished from New York. And from her perspective, I could see it. After all, she has somehow absconded with $850 million of city funds meant for a program for the mentally ill. So if there's less cops to arrest her for that crime, well, certainly for her, that would be nirvana. The reality is New York and Chicago are under a double whammy. On the one hand, as I mentioned earlier, they are defunding the police. The bill in the New York City Council calls for a $1 billion reduction in the New York City Police Department budget. At the same time, New Yorkers are deprived of the protection of the Second Amendment. And if they used something else to protect themselves, if they took a cooking knife to stab an invader in their home in the middle of the night, guess what? It is the homeowner protecting himself who winds up in court. We've seen, for example, bodega owners, small store owners throughout the city who have defended themselves either with a handgun, legal or illegal, or a baseball bat or anything else from being robbed for the 10th time in the past 2 months. And the way the indictment comes down, the criminal is not even prosecuted. The store owner gets indicted for protecting himself or his property. This has become an act of sheer insanity. The mayor of Chicago recently told her residents, her constituency, that it is inappropriate to use any kind of gun to protect themselves. The descent into irrationality is absolutely stunning in great cities like New York and Chicago and throughout the country.
Wow. And it's we've only got one more segment left, and we've got so much yet to talk about, but we're going to try and put a bow on the program. The guys each have their hot button topics. Want to thank you so much for listening. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.